Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your coffee, your tea, water, whatever it is you're drinking this morning, and join me to talk about what is happening up in the stars above. Except today, we're actually going to talk about human design because we've done a lot of talking about the stars lately and what's been happening up in the heavens above us. But now I want to bring it down into the body and talk about how all of these fluctuations up in the stars and the heavens is impacting us here on Earth. And of course, that's the most important thing, right? Because that's where we live, that's where we breathe, that's where we play, and that's what we need to know. So today is pretty much all Human Design Day. If you have your Human Design chart with you, that would be really good. Then you can follow along and determine how these things impact you. And I hope everybody had a great weekend. Here we sit today with the planet of duty and responsibility, Saturn, changing gates in human design, moving from the gate of, um, geez, my mind just went blank, but it's moving into the gate of crisis, right? Turbulence, the gate 36. And now it's going to bug me. I'm going to have to figure this out. It was moving from the 22, the gate of grace, uh, of course it was, into the gate 36, the gate of crisis. So obviously, my mind is a little scrambled this morning. It was a busy weekend. And I had a very funny thing happen to me on Saturday night. Um, it was late, probably, I mean, late for Binksy to be outside. It was like 10:30, maybe close to 11. And Terry went outside to go find her. So he's outside in the yard somewhere with the flashlight. And every once in a while, I see the flashlight. And he finds what he thinks is Binksy underneath our neighbor's trailer. And I hear him yell across the yard to me, "Okay, she's on her way to you." So then I was like, "Okay, ready to, open the door, let her in." And it wasn't her. And what I saw was an animal on my front porch that had rings around its tail. And I suddenly had a moment where I freaked out because I thought it was a raccoon. So I slammed the door, and it wasn't a raccoon. It was a different cat. Somebody's cat looks like a raccoon. It's almost like a raccoon and a tabby cat, mated or something. And it wasn't even Binksy. Binksy was nowhere to be found. Terry thinks he's pushed Binksy over to me. I'm thinking it's a raccoon until later when I went finally the whatever it was, I scared it away, right? And then it's over in my neighbor's yard and I see it and I went, "Oh, it's a cat." And then Binksy came home. So it was a really kind of humorous night as I had this freak out moment about this raccoon, which was a cat, coming into my house, and I'm like, "Whoa, nope, not having that." So that was my Saturday night. Um, so hopefully it was funny in the end. I was laughing, but at first I was kind of frightened over the stupid cat. Um, and Binksy did come home right after that. Apparently, she had been hanging out with this cat, who none of us know. We're all like, we don't know who that cat belongs to. So it was pretty funny. All right. Good morning to people who are showing up this morning. I saw Debbie Tibbetts 2 Meal out there. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Diana, good morning to you. Treat yourself. Julie, happy St. Patrick's Day, she says. And Teddy, good morning to you. Asa, good to have you with us this morning. And Tom, good morning. And it's good to have you with us. And anybody else out there listening who I can't see yet, welcome. And let's start breaking this human design information down. So today is a big day because, when the outer planets take longer to change signs. And then that means even within the context of the sign, as we break down the human design gates, they spend more time in each gate. So Saturn, having been in the gate 22 for a while, teaching us about grace, teaching us about how to understand emotional energy and its moodiness, right? How it flows to the high and down into the low. And how is it that we handle ourselves when we have those emotional moments of high, where we're excited to be out in the world and talking to everybody, and how we would handle the low when we're feeling not so happy, not so, in the glow, and how do we handle ourselves there. Well, now Saturn will have moved off into the gate 36 sometime to this, well, actually early this morning already. And the 36, as we know, we've been living through. We've been living through Neptune having been at this gate for a very long time. This week, the Sun and Earth playing a role here at the 36 and the 6. And of course, last week's lunar eclipse was at the gate 6, which would trigger the Sun at the gate 36. So we have a lot of 36 energy that we have been dealing with. So turmoil, crisis, turbulence, experiences that are triggers emotionally. So I wanted us to break down, well, what does that look like for each of us? Because your chart may have the gate 36 defined, which is adding to the load of the planets that you have sitting there, and maybe exacerbating some of the situations, the emotional situations that you find yourself in. Or maybe you're someone who doesn't have anything at the gate 36, and now you're suddenly wondering why it is you have all of these emotional outbursts, or other people are outbursting around you, or there's a lot of emotional turmoil, crisis energy going on in your life that you're not normally exposed to in the same way. So today we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to also look at the planet uh, Uranus, who is also changing gates later this month on the 26th. So next week, changing into the gate 8. And, we haven't really talked a lot about Uranus lately. He's been sort of in the background, sure. And when he makes a connection to another planet, we speak about it. But we haven't really talked much about what gate he's been in and where he's going. And he has been in the gate 23 on the throat center, which is a gate of assimilation, taking in new things, new information, putting it together in a new way, and then being able to speak about it when appropriate. Um, yes. Wait a minute. The 23. Why is my brain dead this morning? Yeah, 23 is on the throat. Okay. Yes, heading up to the 43 on the ajna. Suddenly it looked upside down in my mind. And as we go through this period of time where the 23 shifts into the next gate 8, we're moving from this very mental process into this very action oriented, if you will, or visceral action change that we're going to be going through with Uranus. And then as well, we did talk about this briefly when Neptune switched out of the 36 and into the 25. So I want to talk about a lot of different things this morning. And I think it might be beneficial if I show you my chart. I share my screen here for a moment, and that way you can see what I am talking about. So let me just check StreamYard to make sure. Okay, so you guys are seeing my screen, and here we go. So the first gate that we're going to talk about is the 36, which is sitting right here on the emotional center. This is the solar plexus, and it fields all of the emotional energy coming in and going out, but it also is a center that deals with creative energy. Interesting that creative energy is linked to the emotions, right? So we have creativity, we have emotional energy here. And this is the gate that the lunar eclipse was in. Or no, excuse me, this is the gate that received the energy of the lunar eclipse, because the lunar eclipse sat at this gate 6 and the sun was at the gate 36. So we have two gates on the emotional center that were highly activated at the time of the lunar eclipse. And these are deeply emotional and very transformative gates. The 36 being literally where the sun was shining a light on this transformational energy. And the gate 6, where the lunar eclipse sat, is a gate called impact. And sometimes you'll also hear it called peace. And there's this cosmic wave being, brought to us of emotional processing, emotional breakthroughs, but just heightened emotional and energetic shift kinds of energy. So let's first talk about the sun at 36, because this seems to be the focal point of a lot of energy recently. And that's because the sun is there now, and the planet Neptune had been sitting there just before this period of time, or right now, the North Node is sitting there, destiny, right? So this is where we are taking in the energy of what will become our destiny, which is learning to behave emotionally in a way that is appropriate and not reactive or knee jerk type of energy. So much was focused here and continues to be focused here for the time being. And now Saturn moving into this gate today makes this gate even more activated in your chart. So take a look at your human design chart and see if this gate has any, if it has any color associated with it, then you have a planet sitting there. And if you have a planet sitting there, now add the energy of the sun, add the energy of Saturn, add the closing energy of Neptune out of that gate, and you'll see, where the impact of emotional turbulence perhaps has been impacting you in your life. Now, if you have this gate open, which means you wouldn't have any color sitting here, then take a look at your life and how you're being impacted by others' emotions. Maybe the emotional energy of the collective, or the emotional energy of people in your family or friends or neighborhood kind of things, right? Lots of incoming emotional energy here. Now, in its highest expression, if we look at this gate, 36, we see emotional growth. And it is a part of an emotional wave in our human design that is one that takes us to the highs and then drops us precipitously into the lows. And we call it the collective wave. And that energy is about teaching resilience through life's ups and downs. And without the massive emotional reaction that typically comes along with those emotional triggers in our lives. Now, there's also, change in this gate. It forms a channel called transitoriness with the gate 35 up here. So if you have the gate 35 defined and maybe not a gate 36, suddenly with all this energy that's been here, you now have this entire channel defined. And if that's the case, there's been a lot of changes going on in your life, or a lot of need for transformation. And this can lead to breakthrough energy, mastery energy, mastering the emotions. But this energy actually thrives when it's embracing change and navigating uncertainty with trust, rather than emotionally reacting to everything that is going on. And it is a gate of compassion and storytelling in some ways, because this gate holds deep wisdom from lived experiences. And it is a gate where we are meant to share our experiences with others in a positive and uplifting way, right? Not necessarily an easy thing to do, because often when we recall an emotional experience, it triggers the emotion, right? And we begin to respond to that emotion. So we're really kind of holding the wisdom about how to share life's experiences, even, putting words to the emotion that we felt as we were moving through that experience. And then it allows for us to connect with others on an emotional level, and also on a level that provides healing, because we're experiencing, from a distance, perhaps the emotional energy that others are experiencing, maybe more in real time now, and that it gives us the opportunity to help others through the experience. But it has a shadow expression too. I mean, of course, everything does, right? So the shadow here at this gate 36 is all about emotional chaos. And it is about the feelings of overwhelm and restlessness and drama that can arise when the emotions feel too intense, when something big is happening and you're in response to it or reaction to it. And it can be an addiction to crises here. Adrenaline junkies sometimes have this gate where they're seeking out those emotional extremes or the instability, just in order to feel alive. So the gate 36 is one of those gates similar to the 28 over here on the spleen, that can create this need for excitement to feel like you are alive or that life has meaning. And it is also in the shadow a fear of change, where resistance to transformation can create suffering instead of growth, right? Where we kind of stay where we are and suffer in silence or suffer out loud, either way, instead of growing and moving and evolving. So it does have some really key shadow aspects that are likely being triggered throughout the collective. And then, of course, the eclipse at the gate 6, the opposite gate from the 36. And I know it doesn't look opposite here because they're at different ends of the of the solar plexus, but it's definitely they're linked together in your human design because when the sun is at 36, the earth is at 6, right? And in a full moon, the earth and the moon are at the same gate. So the moon being eclipsed was here at the gate 6. So this amplified the emotional waves that were coming from all of the solar plexus energy. And during that, we get this immense sort of or intense possibility of like realizations or things that needed to end, and we move on, like we close a book or we close a chapter, and we're ready for the next chapter in our lives or the next experience. And old wounds might have resurfaced with this, and maybe those wounds were about showing you where you need more emotional clarity or where more resilience is needed in your life. So if you're moving through this eclipse window, which is still active, right? We're still activated, then take a look at what the underlying emotion is about what you're experiencing and how can you move through that and heal the past or heal the old wounds. Now, let's look at the moon at the gate 6 because this gate is one that we call aura busting. It's a very powerful and impactful gate in human design. And sometimes we call this a red flag gate because when we see it activated in a chart, we take an extra long look at how that gate is impacting everybody or that person, excuse me. And here in the highest expression of the gate 6, we really have what's called emotional discernment, recognizing when to engage or when to step back so that we can create peace. So this gate really fields energy of, whether we are going to enter into a conversation or we're going to enter into a conflict perhaps or enter into an action, or when is it better for us to step back and wait so that we stay in peace, because the gate's name is peace in traditional human design. In quantum human design, we call this the gate of impact. And it's an harmonizing energy, and it can bring resolution to tricky situations through clarity and patience and intuitive knowing, maybe even some diplomacy and being able to be tactful in how we move through this energy. And it's really, it's really a negotiating kind of gate where the peacemaker is another name that we could give this gate, right? And it creates sacred boundaries, and it teaches us the importance of energetic balance in our relationships, where we're not getting too far over to one side or the other. But it also has a shadow expression. And the shadow expression, at least maybe initially, is what we experience, which is emotional conflict. And it is if we have unresolved emotions or if unresolved issues come to the surface, then reactions can become explosive or defensive, right? We pull in, we pull away, our dander gets up, right? And we, go on the attack. And or it can also be a place of suppressed feelings where we avoid the confrontation or we ignore emotions that lead us then to the inner turmoil. So rather than, dealing with the issue that's come up, instead we're holding it tight inside and creating a whole lot of emotional turmoil for ourselves. This can also lead to feeling stuck. And when emotional clarity is lacking, when we don't know what it is that we're feeling, or we have no clear idea of, what it is, it can feel like a struggle for us to move forward at all. Like we just get caught up. and we're stuck. So that is another one of the shadow expressions. If you're feeling like you can't move forward, then it's time for you to take a look at what the deeper impact is of the old wound or of what it is that is struggling to come to the surface for you to release it. And of course, with the impact of the lunar eclipse here, we have heightened emotional awareness. And it might be an awareness that, something's off. It might be an awareness that we're, being overly emotional, but it requires us to balance the energy between responding and reacting, right? Responding is when we take a moment, we breathe, or we step back and we choose consciously what it is that we're going to say or do in a given situation. Where reacting is, just that emotional trigger, and we confront or we do something or say something that we may regret later. So the impact of the eclipse is really about establishing healthier boundaries, and moving toward peace in our interactions and in our connections with one another. So, how did this eclipse play out? Well, it played out with a lot of possibilities of emotional highs or lows, and the emotional intensity, which is still there, still activated. Maybe we're growing through the discomfort of really dealing with our emotional energy, finding balance in that, moving forward, where before we may have been stuck. Now, I want to expand a little bit on this gate six, because it's tribal energy and it's part of the very masculine channel of managing and allocating sort of the resources that are protective for a tribe or community or country, however we're looking at it. And also about how we need emotional alignment in order to make the connections with others that would lead to the establishing of a family or the community or the tribe. How do we get together and how do we work together in that relationship? And it's deeply connected to relationships and community and the dynamics of emotional intimacy and supporting one another, bonding energy. How do we come together? How do the emotions flow within the family or in the tribe or community that we're a part of? And in a way, the gate six is about emotional readiness. Are we ready to come together as a couple or as a community, as a tribe, to support one another for surviving or thriving? Literally, it's taking this very masculine energy of protection and defense and provision and bringing it to the surface. And the gate six determines when it is that we're emotionally available to connect, or when is it that we need space. Sometimes, you just need to walk away. It's not the right timing, perhaps, for solution time. Maybe it's, not the vibe is too high or too difficult, and it's not the right time to try to solve a problem. So the six can act sort of like an energetic filter for us, regulating intimacy, whether within a family, a partnership, or within a larger collective energy. And because it is also a peace gate, it can serve as the conduit for conflict or resolution. And it manages all of the emotional interactions that we're having with each other. So it can show up as periods of tension between people or between countries or between tribes. And that's especially true when emotional clarity is needed about why we're doing what we're doing or why we're feeling what we're feeling. Or it can be peace when the emotions are aligned and we're ready for connection. Remember, this is emotional energy and it moves in waves. So it's up and it's down. And of course, providing for the tribe is another function of the gate six. It protects and it nurtures the group. And it ensures that resources, the physical, emotional, financial, are distributed in a way that strengthens the group rather than weakens the group. So if emotions are balanced, the energy can lead to deeper unity. If emotions are unstable, then it can create tribal discord, world discord, national discord, family discord, right? It works on all the different levels in which we are connecting with one another. So the lunar eclipse amplified those themes and the lessons associated with how it is that we come together. How do we, move together as a tribe community or what have you? And it maybe has brought us some big realizations about relationships and our emotional commitments to one another or to our beliefs and our ways of life. And the key here is emotional clarity, which is about knowing when to engage and when to protect ourselves, right? So it's huge energy. And now, first of all, let me go back to StreamYard and see how we're doing. Questions, anybody? Nicole Duke, good morning. And yes, you're one of those people today. We're going to be talking about that whole idea of transformation and the energy of the 36 to be sure. And TD Hawk, good morning to you. And Kamal, good morning. Maya from Finland, good morning to you. Pam Zaruba, good to have you with us this morning. And Christine Buckingham, if I didn't say good morning already, good morning. Terry, good to see you. J Lo, happy Monday. Pauline is confused. The above said Monday 318, then later says 317. Mercury's retrograde, that's all I can say, right? For some reason, I thought it was the 18th on Monday, then realized it was the 17th, and then changed everything, I thought. So I don't know where you're seeing the 18th now, but hopefully you're here, so you found me. Jeannie Vibes, good morning from Burbank, California. Oh, the changes. Yes, that is definitely true. Okay, so let's go back to our chart and take a look now a little deeper at this gate 36. Because now, just to add more power to its punch, we have the planet Saturn, which is all about duty and responsibility and forms and structure and karma and being able to have discipline and be responsible. And now from today through May 4th, we have Saturn adding energy to this gate. So it's been sort of, Neptune was here. First of all, the North Node and the South Node made their move in the beginning of the year. So the North Node moved to the 36, and Neptune was now at the 36. And then we have the Sun and Earth coming to the 36 and the 6. And now we have Saturn at the 36, and Neptune's moved on, but the nodes stay here. So we're kind of experiencing this energy of the gate 36 through these different planets and points, right? So a lot of different lessons that we're building up around this particular emotional energy, which I think is all right and appropriate considering we are also on the cusp of a major solar plexus evolution coming up 2027. But as you know, no evolution just happens on a day or even in a year. It's usually something that starts ahead, happens, and then wanes, and then, the lessons are done. Well, hopefully, or integrated into, our being. So Saturn now entering this gate. Saturn, sometimes we also call the great teacher and the builder of structures. And when he moves into the gate 36 crisis, we're marking a collective and personal reckoning with emotional turbulence, uncertainty, and transformation. So now, no matter who you are or where you are hitched to the cart of transformation, right? Nobody's escaping this energy. And as a transpersonal planet, meaning Saturn isn't personal because it's further beyond Mars, it's joined with Jupiter, who is actually another transpersonal planet. They form a bridge between the personal, you, and the collective, we. And that transpersonal bridge is really about how society responds or how culture responds to changes before they're happening. So it's impacting us both as individuals because there's been a fair amount of energy here, but also society's larger structures. And it brings karmic lessons, it brings systemic changes, and the need to master emotional resilience to everyone, right? Literally. So here we have the gate 36, which is crisis, and maybe growth through emotional discomfort would be another way for us to say that. And in human design, remember, gate 36 is part of the emotional solar plexus. That means it's given to the waves that flow through the emotional center. And the intense transformation is also flowing through the highs and the lows. And the journey is from chaos to wisdom. It takes time, right? That's the thing with the solar plexus. It's emotional clarity over time. It doesn't happen in a moment. It happens with clarity over time. And if the energy, it is the energy of emotional crisis as a catalyst for growth. So it has a purpose. And it's about pushing through the challenges to gain mastery. So with Saturn here now, we have to confront emotional patterns. We have to confront fears, outdated societal structures, those things that can no longer hold up under pressure, that cannot stand the test of time. So that's why we're seeing so much change going on in the way that the world has been organized, and has been the way that our finances have been organized or disorganized, the way that our governments have been organized or disorganized. So the cultural collective impact here on society is about breaking down and then rebuilding institutions. So political, governmental, financial systems all face crises during this period of time that expose the deeper flaws of the system. It's not to hurt us, but it's to expose the deeper flaws, the places that won't stand the test of time. It forces restructuring and economic instability or policy shifts related to healthcare, education, societal support, the economy, the governmental institutions that we're all aware of that have been changing already, may have a next level that comes to them. And that next level uh, may not be the final way that those institutions and so forth will look like. It's almost like we went from broken to more broken in order to be able to rebuild, right? So expect things to become more broken, if you will, more exposure to what's not working over these next couple of months that Saturn is sitting here. So when I see this, I think recession. Economically, I see, tightening of the belt. Saturn is a constrictor. I see that, we're likely having to, come inward in some ways to prepare for growth, but we're not ready for the growth part yet, right? It is also about emotional maturity and leadership at this gate. Leaders and institutions will be tested, and their ability to handle emotional volatility and public reactions, right? The public is not going to react the way that the government believes that they will react. Right. Some people think they have a mandate to do what they're doing, and they go along doing what they're doing. But we, the people, are also in reaction to those things. So we see more demonstrations, we see more resistance, and we see more, just weirdness out there in the way people are interacting with one another. And those unwilling to adapt might be the ones that are the most volatile, right? They're the ones that are in the most reactive space. So all of us need to sort of learn how to be emotionally responsive as opposed to emotionally reactive. And I would imagine too, crisis and extending into the media and the narratives, of course, that the media gives us. I would expect maybe more crisis driven stories, more emotional manipulations, or global events that stir the collective uncertainty during these next couple of months. The challenge will be to learn to discern truth from fear based narratives, right? Difficult when we're never sure anymore what's conspiracy and what's truth, right? What's real, what's not real. So we have to learn, each of us individually, to learn how to discern, to be more discerning. And then, of course, we're also reevaluating our relationship to risk and change. Are we willing to go with that flow, or are we digging our heels in and resisting? And gate 36 can trigger fear of the unknown, because it is all about the transitory nature of reality here, the change, the transformation, the phoenixing, of everything. But Saturn demands growth through discomfort, right? He demands no matter what it is going to feel like that you do it. So this period asks society to kind of lean into the uncertainty with wisdom rather than with reactionary chaos. Now, also, you as an individual will be impacted because if it is you personally who will have Saturn sitting here at the gate 36. And it's time to face your emotional patterns. Are you stuck in a cycle of emotional chaos or avoidance? And Saturn forces a mature, long term approach to navigating emotions, right? He's not just going to let you do the superficial dance, right? You got to go into the deeper expression. There are lessons and endings and lessons in beginnings here for all of us. It's a period of transition where the old must be released to allow for something new to be birthed. And some may experience relationship shifts, career changes, deep internal work that is around your emotional wounds, your core wounds. Patience is going to be the key. Saturn teaches delayed gratification, if you will, right? He requires the patience to move through the process to get to the gold at the end. And he is also karmic reward. We are rewarded for doing the work. We're enduring the emotional process of this change without rushing, without resisting, and that leads us to something beautiful in the end, like the pot of gold, to speak of the day of celebrating the Irish. And it is breakthroughs that follow the challenge. So as we're challenged, breakthroughs occur. We find solutions, new solutions to old problems. It is emotional wisdom that we're gaining here as well. So if we've embraced the energies of trusting the process and navigating uncertainty and surrendering, remember Pisces is where Saturn still is. So we still have those surrender and trust energies. And then that leads us to emotional evolution, all of us as a collective. I feel like this is generally speaking, this, cresting tidal wave, if you will, that leads us to that solar plexus evolution here in the mutation, solar plexus mutation, probably the better phrase to use for 2027. So it's a huge time to have all of this energy at the gate 36. So moving forward, practice emotional resilience and just recognize that challenges aren't punishments. We're not being punished, but we're being presented opportunities for mastery and embrace the change instead of resisting it, right? You can't make what's happening in the outer world be any different, but you can choose your response to what is happening in the outer world. That's the key. And don't get stuck in crisis mode. Don't get addicted to crisis and drama and trauma, because it's amplified right now anyway. And if you become that adrenaline junkie, it's going to be hard for you to shift back into peace where the lunar eclipse was, where we need to be peaceful in regards to the things that we are seeing happening. And just seek stability where you can. While uncertainty is amplified, focus on your routines, focus on grounding practices, emotional regulation, right? Being, able to see when it is you're about to explode and choosing how it is you're going to react or respond to that energy. So, this is Saturn sitting here at the gate 36 now is a necessary reset. It may feel intense for us for these next couple of months, but ultimately it's here he comes to this point to refine us, to teach us, and to bring deeper wisdom to the collective around emotional energy. So it's not just a personal shift, it's more of a societal one, but it's pushing the world toward greater emotional intelligence, EQ, adaptability, and courage, right? The courage to move through your emotional turmoil. And of course, this is linked with Pisces because Saturn is still in Pisces, because part of the um, experience is about creating boundaries. And it's the dissolution of the old structures that tests our faith and the need to balance our discipline with intuition. The gate itself, is maybe the Saturn here is the discipline, but it's in Pisces, which is the intuition. And we can, develop this emotional resilience by really trusting what's going on inside, listening to your inner voice, even when it feels chaotic. And this is an energy, of course, that Saturn is finishing, right? He's moving through the final degrees of Pisces on his way to Aries energy in May. So we're moving through something. It feels like this is the final piece in this big emotional puzzle, at least as it relates to the gate 36. And developing spiritual and emotional resilience has been key through or are key. And this is creating a collective awakening. Right? We need a collective awakening. Pisces is a transpersonal sign. And what that means is that it's not just about the personal challenges that we experience, but it's about humanity evolving through uncertainty and being able to stand with resilience through those things and stay aligned with our common values, right? And, despite the emotional undercurrents that are constantly hitting us and the unrest, societal unrest, perhaps, or collective grief that we might be feeling, or shifts in our belief systems, right? To keep coming back to our center, the collective values that we hold. So, um, this is likely the last big hit of the energy, even until June, when the nodes shift even out of the gate 36. Then we go on to new territory. But for right now, 36 is like this hammer that we're being hammered with. And let's see how everybody's doing. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Go back to StreamYard. Okay, guys, how's everybody doing? Um, totally the collective broken to be eventually rebuilt. And we're rebuilding. We're responsible, right? We're the responsible ones. We broke it. It didn't get broken just because it's broken. It we broke it, or we allowed it to be broken. Now we need to allow it to heal and then to rebuild, right? Something better, stronger, that stands the test of time. So Christine says throwing the baby out with the bathwater is beyond foolish. There is that too, but that tends to be what happens. If we look at this in a bigger picture too, we also have Pluto that is in the early degrees of Aquarius. And Aquarian energy is about bringing people from the edges into more of the center. And the center gets untied, untethered, and moves out more toward the edges to eventually create a stronger um, community feel, right? Or a national feel, a worldly feel, whatever, universal feel. So right now, when we get to the beginning of a sign with Pluto, we often experience the more negative aspects first, right? That's typical when a planet that spends as much time in a sign as Pluto does, as Neptune does even, we see the exaggerated effects of the negative, like the pendulum swings much further over than it needs to. And then eventually it comes back to center and, with some wobbles in between. But that's what we're experiencing now, and why it's more emotional, because we have a bunch of planets that are moving through and transforming the solar plexus. And if you have an open solar plexus in your own human design, you're feeling much more impacted by the collective drama and trauma, because you're feeling the feels where you don't normally, you're not broadcasting feelings typically, but you're empathic and you're taking it all in. And those of us who have a solar plexus that's defined, we're adding to the broadcast of that emotion. If we're not really careful, we can create an atmosphere where others are having to become reactive to what it is that we're doing or saying. So we're balancing, and balancing. Now, some say they have a mandate when they know they do not. Some are, I can't. bulls. There we go. Bulls in a china shop and enjoy destruction. Um, yeah. Well, there is that, right? And again, it's a lot of that is out of our control and very much in keeping with the gate 36 energy, which is often very emotionally trying, crisis oriented, or creates crisis. There are those who receive the crisis and there are those who create the crisis. And that's what it is that we're working through. Without that emotional crisis in the air, how would you learn emotional resilience? Right? Or emotional response. And it's almost like humanity's on a fast track to really understand the solar plexus and to be able to work with the emotional energy. And that goes for every one of us on the planet, whether yours is open or defined. We're all dealing with this emotional energy. So it's there, it's in the field. Good morning, Corey. And Tom says, mantra for now and anytime, this or something better. Thank you, Creator. There we go. There's that one. Um, Pluto is leading the charge. He was the first one to change signs from the the outer planets. He's the one, right? So definitely leading the charge, and he's death and destruction and rebirth and rebuilding and transforming and phoenixing. He's the phoenix, crash and burn to rebuild from the old and come back stronger, wiser, less emotionally volatile, etc. Right? And interesting that he's in Aquarius, which is a sign that is often emotionally aloof or accused of being aloof and of detachment, right? Being able to step back before responding or before reacting and wait for a response. So it is all tied together really in this nice little bundle. Okay, so now let's go on to Uranus because something interesting happening there too. Let me go back to my presentation screen and show you that. So on March 26th, Uranus is going to change gates. He's been in the gate 23. So I didn't mark that one. Gate 23. And the gate 23 on the throat center is a gate about assimilating new information before speaking, right? It takes in energy that's being delivered through the head and the ajna and creates a way of being able to put it into words that are understandable, that are translated easily. And that's what, Uranus has been sitting at the gate 23, kind of stirring that up. Then on March 26th, Uranus moves to the gate 8. So we're moving, to the other side of the throat center. And this is an energy that we call contribution. And the planet Uranus, remember, is about awakening and disruption and radical change. And when he shifts into the gate 8, a powerful energy then begins to reshape how we express our uniqueness and our influence to the world around us. And this is a long-term shift as, Uranus will activate this gate from March 26th until May 2026 off and on, right? So this gate takes us through a long period of time and it stirs up innovation and rebellion and a push toward authenticity, both personally but also collectively, right? There's like a new identity almost being born out of this. But it's also a new era of leadership and authenticity and influence because the 8 is all about what it is that you contribute individually or as what we contribute as a community to the total story of humanity. And it can sometimes be a gate of radical self expression. It is on the throat center. And it's about the urge, maybe, to break free from the old styles of leadership or how you would normally express yourself, the more conventional ways of thinking, speaking, and creating. So there will be new voices, new influencers, change makers that will arise outside of the traditional power structures. New voices. We've been saying this for a while. We need new mythologies, and mythologies are based in the characters in the play. So we need new characters to arise. And literally, that's what's potential here when Uranus makes this change. And of course, there's disruption to the systems that have been in place, and it's for the greater good. He brings revolutionary shifts to the picture, to activism, to leadership, to collaboration, to, how is it that we all live, breathe, and work together on the planet? So expect new bold movements to show up, or unconventional leaders to show up, groundbreaking technologies to show up that push us for collective progress. He's preparing, remember, to move into Gemini. And that will happen not until July. But, in the meantime, we're all needing to get straight on who we are and what is our contribution going to be to the whole, right? How are you going to express your gifts and your talents? And there can be a whole sense of rebelliousness that is in art and media and influencers. They will be different. They will be maybe warrior like, spiritual warrior like. They will be bold. They will be completely different. And it could be new trends that are being brought to us through decentralized platforms, maybe through AI, disruptive media. It's about radical transformation. But the idea here is new ideas that can contribute to the energy that is being rebuilt or it's being built. So here's the little sparkle, right? That gives us an idea of what the new vision could be. And what is your part in that play, right? What part do you play? And this is about the gate 8 kind of is an energy that decentralizes hierarchical power structures and control. And it, and it promotes that grassroots kind of energy, or that alternative way of being. Um, and it could lead us to new politics, new economics, new social structures. But again, we go back to the personal impact of what is your authentic contribution to all of that. In the bigger world, there's a lot going on. New potential is there. But here, Uranus is awakening a deep need for us to be authentic. You're being called to share your own unique gifts and, boldly share them with the world, stepping out of the shadows, if you will. So expect in your own personal life over these next few months breakthroughs in purpose and identity. And if you've struggled with self expression, maybe you feel like you have something bigger to offer, but you didn't know how to do that, then this transit will shake that up and shake that out of you, and spread it out into the world. You'll find a new way, perhaps, to align with your purpose. You'll let go of what's no longer authentic, right? Uranus here just does not allow us to stay stuck. He's a liberator, an awakener. Now, unconventional leadership and influence, right? Gate 8 isn't about traditional authority, boundaries, or anything like that. It's about leading by example and inspiring others naturally in your natural way, right? Which is going to be different from, everybody else's. What's authentically you? And maybe you step into a new role as a thought leader, as an innovator, as a guide, as a mentor to others, even if it's outside of your norm. You're here to shine you out into the world. And literally, this can lead us to a creative and a social evolution where we're experimenting, where we're pushing creative boundaries and exploring new ways to contribute our energy to the world. And maybe you'll feel drawn to new technologies. Some of you will, some of you won't. New networks or new forms of self expression. It's on the throat, right? It's coming up to be out, right? Pushed out of us. So speak your truth, even if it upsets the norm, right? Even if it's you that usually sits there quietly, you're being asked to influence others, right? Or influence change at least by embodying your own authenticity and not conforming. Embrace unconventional paths. Be different, right? The old models of success and contribution are definitely breaking down, and it's time to rebuild something new, new ways of being out there in the world. Trust your uniqueness, right? Be you. and break free from outdated roles. If you've been pigeonholed, either, by circumstances beyond your control or by your own reaction to who you are and who you want to be, it's time to break free from all of that, right? It's time to really be liberated in the way that you choose to contribute yourself to the world. So it's a new paradigm for influence. And it's about breaking free from this conventional leadership energy that we've had, or this conventional way of speaking or self expressing. And it'll be very difficult for people to hold themselves back. Now, that is not licensed to be ugly and nasty and vindictive and revengeful, but people will become a little zealous about their missions during these several months that Uranus will be at this gate. So watch for that, right? As time goes on, we'll talk more about it, of course, as it in next week. We'll really talk about the collective shift going from the ideas of the 23 and how it breaks down information to the unique contribution that comes up from the 8. So definitely we'll go there shortly. Now I want to look at Neptune. Neptune is now in the gate 25, and this is a power gate. Like if 36 was the gate that's been influencing us the biggest over the last several months, 25 becomes the new gate of influence. And that's because Neptune has already moved to the gate 25, and Mercury and Venus are there at this moment, kind of, moving across that area. As, excuse me, as we get to the end of this month, Neptune, of course, staying in the 25, but Saturn joining 25 later as we get closer to May. So this gate, excuse me, takes over its influence on our lives. And this is a gate called spirit. Spirit, the love of spirit. It's the mystical call to surrender and to embody our true divinity. And it's one of the most profound transits that any planet can make, by the way. And it's one of the most profound transits of the time that we're in. And it's spanning literally planets moving through here off and on from 2024. We had the first kind of hints of it then, all the way through to likely 2027. So for the next couple of years, and it marks this spiritual awakening on both a personal and a collective level. And on March 30th, Neptune will be moving into a new sign, moving into Aries. So the Aries energy takes over from the Piscean 25 to the Aries 25. And that marks a kind of shift energetically for us from this energy of surrender in the Piscean aspects of 25 to the more initiation energies of the Aries gate 25. So the gates, they bridge signs. Right. So just because Neptune moves out of Pisces and into Aries, the gate didn't change. Right. For a time, the gate 25 stays activated by that planet. And we're moving from passive faith to more active embodiment of our beliefs, of our divinity. And in the gate 25, spirit is about unconditional love and divine trust. And it is an energy that's located on the identity center, which is the center of the soul. The soul resides here, right? And it's kind of this energy that brings spiritual awakening. And it's about seeing beyond the ego into what is more about divine truth. It's a tricky energy because, first of all, spirit, as far as we know on this planet, as we sit on, this planet physically, it's invisible, right? It's there. We're embodied it, but where's the proof, right? That's always been the scientific thing is like, where's the proof of the soul? And so here we're being asked to like be very much about faith, having the faith that, there's so much more to us, being our divine selves. So this really bears talking about in a more lengthy conversation. So I think we'll take this up on another day because there's so much more I could say about it. But think about this as the mystical opening of your divine heart, right? So your divine heart is being transformed, or the heart itself, the physical heart, is connecting more fully to the divine heart. And that means we'll need to be releasing some of those fear-based, conditioned things that we do in response, right? We see something happening in our outer world, it triggers a fear, and we respond by withdrawing, or we respond by, using hate or revenge or disgust or whatever, right? Lots of emotional energies there that are judgmental versus peaceful and loving. And wow, we could, really go into this much longer. So that gives me an idea of putting a course together about this rather than trying to do it in a 1 hour show. All right. So, what are you guys thinking out there? Tom, I've been called a character. Does that count? Yes, it does. Partial line from 23, not completely connecting to the 43, so a hanging gate, which I always think of this as, because this is how it is in my own chart. I have the 23 defined, but not the 43. So I receive like insights that come from spirit, or come from, things that I've experienced or things I've read about. And then I have to try to put it into words so that I can share it with others, right? Because the energy that comes in is often so expressively, like, I get it, like it's this pure revelation, but then I got to bring it into words, and that's harder, right? So the 23 becomes, it's actually the moon in my own chart. So I'm sort of motivated to always bring new ideas or new information or try new things. But sometimes the inspiration takes time to get put into words that then I can translate to all of you, or in a session that I'm doing with a client. And it's an interesting gate for us to talk about. And because Uranus has been sitting there for so long, it's been a magic trip for me, because I can see so much about, it's like this vision that I see. Um, but I can't quite bring it into words about where the world is going, or what all of this craziness is bringing us to. So I think a lot of people, with Uranus having been there, can see sort of this inkling of where we're going, or of what's happening, but it's really hard to put it into words and explain it. So if you're feeling that way, it makes perfect sense, right? All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Don't forget, on Thursday, we are doing an Astrology New Year webinar. And I have the link out there on Facebook. And also, I sent it along with I'll send it out on an email blast tonight. It's free or by donation. It's your choice. We're going to talk about what the sun moving into Aries 0 degrees means for the world, for us, for the next year, right? This is the birth of the new year. So I hope you'll join us on Thursday for that. Take care, everybody. I'll see you on Thursday, and I'll see you on Friday. Bye for now.